Hey, I'm Jim from Digital Anarchy, and in this tutorial we're going to take a look at flicker caused by LED lights that looks like rolling bands. And we're going to use the flicker-free plugin from Digital Anarchy, and we're here in Premiere Pro. This is the most common problem that we see people buying flicker-free for. There are a variety of causes and different light types that cause it, and different ways the rolling bands look. So it's a pretty complicated problem. But we're going to take a look at a few clips and see how it works and how to fix it. To speed up this video, I'm not going to go into detail about all the settings. We're just going to kind of breeze over it. We have lots of other intro tutorials that go over stuff in depth. And so if you want a deep dive, check out those tutorials. So we'll start off with this clip that has some camera movement. And so it's a handheld camera. You can see the rolling bands are pretty obvious. The light in the background is causing. And so we're going to apply flicker free. You go down to your effects panel and go to Digital Anarchy, grab flicker free, and I'm going to reset it back to the rolling bands default preset. And this usually works pretty well for a lot of rolling bands types, but in this case it doesn't quite cut it, both because it's not totally getting rid of the bands and also it's causing some blurring in the background there, and so we don't want either of those. So we're going to turn off detect motion and see if that improves things, and it does improve the flicker situation, but now everything's blurry. So now let's see if we can fix the blurriness. One way of doing that would be with detect motion, which we can see doesn't work in this case. The other one is motion compensation. So we'll turn that on. Now it's deflickered and there's no more of that blurring. So anytime you have a handheld camera, a lot of action in the scene, even if it's a locked off camera, motion compensation is really your friend. And we can see another example of kind of what goes wrong with this clip from a music video that Flicker Free was used in. And if we look at this, we can see we've got a lot of flicker from the LED rope light down here. This is a rolling band, but since it's a very local area, it doesn't appear quite as obvious as the previous example. But one of the things that we run into with this, and one of the things you want to watch out for is if we turn Flicker Free on, and we're going to turn motion compensation off, you can see that the leg here has some transparency because, again, it's pretty fast moving. And so as he picks it up, there's some transparency here. Over here, if I turn the effect off, you can see what I'm talking about. That's with flicker free on, off. And so again, motion compensation is really your friend when you've got a situation like this. We can turn motion compensation on, and that pretty much solves it. You can also try it with detect motion off, and that does not solve it. So we need both of them on. Sometimes that's the case. And now we've got a much better look. It's getting rid of that transparency, and it's getting rid of the flicker. So those are things to watch out for, both the background getting blurry with handheld cameras or moving cameras, and also fast-moving objects becoming slightly transparent. So one of the things that complicates deflickering is rolling bands that are really slow, as in the case of this video. We can see that there's actually almost two types of bands happening. There's one that's really fast and one that's really slow. And if we turn flicker free on again and set back to the rolling bands default preset, we can see that some of the bands are removed, especially the faster ones, but we definitely have some bands still hanging out in the background there, which you might or might not be able to see on YouTube, but they're definitely there. So the thing to know about this is that these bands are happening over a longer time frame. So in the previous example, we had time radius set to 8, as we do here, and it worked fine. But since these are slower, we want a higher time radius. So we're going to click on time radius, set this to 14, play that back. Looks better, but there are still some bands there, which again, you might not be able to see, but I can see them. And so the solution here is to look at an even longer time range, and you do that by setting time step to 2. And what that means is with time step set to 1 and time radius set to 14, Flicker Free is looking at 14 frames before the playhead and 14 frames after the playhead to figure out the correct luminance for a given frame. So that's a lot of frames, but it's about 1 second of video, right? By setting time step to 2, we're now looking at every other frame. And so it's still looking at 14 frames back, but now it's every other frame. So we've doubled the time distance that we're using. So now instead of 1 second of video, we're looking at 2 seconds of video. And if we play that back, everything looks great. All of the rolling bands are pretty much gone. We just needed to expand that time range that we were looking at. So that's it for getting rid of rolling bands in Premiere Pro. We have lots of other tutorials on digitalanarchy.com that deep dive into this plugin if you want more details about what all these settings do. And of course, if you have Flickr you're having problems with, you're welcome to send us a few seconds to sales@digitalanarchy.com and we can give you some recommendations for settings. But thanks for joining me, and hopefully you found this helpful.